can answer any questions you want about the church, I know, and probably about the plantation. So without further ado, Gertrude Malbis.
I'm not really used to talking much about the family or that. I really just do the church tour, so y'all bear with me. And when I tell you a little bit about it, whatever you want to ask, feel free to ask. It was started back in Jason Malbis was the first settler there, and he came to this country from Greece. He'd been a monk, but left the monastery and came over in 1906, went through Ellis Island over to Chicago, with their big Greek communities, and met another guy out there, and big cities back then were expensive, so they came south looking for cheaper land. And as all of you know, historically here, back then you had to go by boat to Mobile. Therefore, land over here was real cheap. So they contacted this guy they had met at a Greek bank in Chicago, and the Greeks would help each other out. So they borrowed $500 and bought 100 acres. $5 an acre. You can't do it anymore. They started off farming, then they built a nursery, dairy under Malbis milk. We still have some of the old milk bottles. Turpentine, timber. Every time they'd make a little money, they'd buy more land. That being from the old country and that time under the king, which were inherited dictators, you couldn't buy land unless you really had connections or owned it. And they knew the value, so they buy land with everything. And then when the state built the causeway, they built the bakery, and a lot of you old-timers probably remember Malbis Bakery. And at one time it served the eight southeast states, and they wound up owning about 10,000 acres. They did their own water system, that original water tower, and that's back before you had government help and funds and matching funds. They started the first electricity in this area, which today is Riviera Utilities. Just a lot of different things. And today we're more in the land development business.
They had that big nursery there, but didn't they?
Yeah, that's where and that now is the subdivision and the office,
And part of that structure is still out in front of that subdivision.
The what?
Part of the structure from that nursery, is that still where we live? Is that the grants?
Yeah, well, it's not a nursery, and it hasn't been for a long time.
Right.
And basically, they started off retail, but they wound up just doing wholesale. And now it's a subdivision, and the nursery building is the like the center. They have parties there. The ones that live there, they rent it out for wedding receptions and things.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about the plantation, the homes, and how they lived? The people who had to live in those homes, did they?
Well, it didn't start out that big. They just kept adding to it as they, got others. And everybody there is not related. See, Jason Malbis never married, but he brought a niece and a nephew over who did marry, and my husband was a nephew's son. But they're all referred to as Malbis family because they all lived and worked there, but they're, Gregors and Pappuses and Papa Georges and whatever, all these Greek names. And they just added to it as they grew. And the red brick one with the columns, it's empty now. But when they sold the bakery in I think it was 1955, I don't know, late 50s, there wasn't enough room for them to all live there, so that's when they built that, was because they had two big houses in Mobile near the bakery. And they just all lived there together. And the one by the water tank is where they had a cannery too. So the products under their own label, primarily in the Northeast food markets, wholesale, because a lot of Greek people were in the wholesale food business, so they help each other out. And then they added those two wings on it like a dorm. And in 1953, they bought over about 20 some odd young adult, Greeks, orphanage to live there. They built that for them, and they kind of wanted to be Americans and live the American way of life. They didn't want to just sit there whatever, be controlled. They didn't want somebody either not want them to get married or picking their husbands or wives, you know. So all of them left except one. And Eugenia probably couldn't have made it on her own, you know.
So that's one of those big houses that were
Yeah.
marked. This house had any orphans, you said, from Greece?
Yeah, they were young adults, you know.
The big pink house, is anybody living in that now?
No, we've moved the office there. The last one died, Bessie Pappas, she died. She lived to be way up in her 90s. And my husband swears it because she didn't marry and have kids. But anyway, but we've moved the office up there because you get vandalism when it's abandoned. And we use the other one now, all the men's, you know, what we call the men's house, the red brick one across the road. To keep vandals out, it was vandalized and what have you. We let in the police and sheriff's department train their drug dogs there. Oh, well, you keep the police cars there and people come by and they think, oh, geez, that's a little precinct. So. But we've got some plans, we're dealing with some people now to turn it into an office building, but they've got to work the details out.
No plans to ever sell any of those buildings that you know of?
No, not really.
Well, what about the restaurant that used to be out there?
Well, you know, a lot of Greeks got into the restaurant business because back when they first immigrated here, you had no minimum wage, there was a language barrier, and you'd work for a week, they promised you salary, like all of our ancestors at one time. Oh, I didn't say that, you misunderstood. And they found out the only way to make it was to be your own boss. And they could cook, so they get into the restaurant business. Like the Chinese got into laundries, same principle.
That restaurant was there for a long time.
Oh, yeah, it was a long, but all the younger ones, see, you have education available today, and none of the young ones want to food at the restaurant. They just said,
Well,
you know, that's long, hard hours.
How about the motel? How soon did they build that motel? It was
Oh,
torn down
it was,
and
I
rebuilt.
think, built back in the 40s, 50s, early 50s or 40s, late 40s, early 50s.
They built the restaurant, it was like a 2- or 3-story building.
Big
Now,
wooden building, yeah.
what was in the upstairs then?
Just office buildings,
Okay,
you know, office rooms, I mean, you know.
okay. And how about the service station on the corner? Was that Malbis?
Oh, yeah, that was
And so
Malbis,
they
yeah.
did the service station?
Malbis Hotel Court, service station, yeah.
Okay.
They've done had a lot of different businesses.
How large is the plantation?
Acreage-wise, I think it's either 3,400 or 3,600, acres left, yeah. And we have some deals going on now, but you just don't want to say anything until that contract's signed, you know?
Well, the subdivision that goes down, is it Malbis Road that's on the east side on 181? Was that Malbis land that opened
Yeah,
up?
Malbis Lane, yeah,
Okay, and the houses are in there.
yeah. Yeah, I live down there too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, us married ones want our own home.
Yeah.
Other people had one mother-in-law, you know how many I had? That never married, never had kids, never had a husband, but boy, could they give you. When you're young, you get upset. My husband, he was not old world, trust me. And he said, let it go in here and out that one and learn to laugh. So you go on and laugh about it.
And with the big yellow house that's right on 90, was that across the street?
No, everybody, there's a lot of things about that they thought that was Malbis. That was a Tampere home. And he was a building contractor from Chicago who built the cracker addition to the bakery way back. And he liked the area and saw the potential of it, so he built his home there. And he died not too long after it was built. And they're buried in our cemetery. And today, Willard Simmons, lives across the street from me on Malbis Lane, bought it, but he doesn't live there. He's put his office there. And the vandals, you may have read in the paper way back where the kids were breaking in and what have you. And my next door neighbor was going to buy it, but he wanted it because it had been abandoned. The Tamperes had, been going on for years. And he wanted an engineer to check it out first to see if it was solid. And it was, and so I finished it, he was gonna sign the contract Monday. Saturday night, the vandals broke in and set a fire and the roof fell in. But anyway, that's when he contacted Willard, my neighbor that has it now, and Norman knew that Willard had gas and oil wells and things, and that they jacked the price up for him. So he said, told Willard, he says, if you want it, just pay me the engineer fee and I'll buy it, and that's what they did. But Willard doesn't live there. He's got one of his offices there. You could move in that house tomorrow, though. You could move the office furniture out and move in it tomorrow.
How about members of the religious order? We had always heard, were there any nuns or priests here? Have we learned about nuns and priests on the
There are 40 dozen tales floating
I
around.
know, and that's why we're so glad to get to ask you this.
Well, I think the funniest one, I do the church tours, but only if they call the office and see if I'm available. I'm not going to sit up there all day anymore. I've been tacky now, lazy. But the funniest one I heard, someone came in, I did the tour, and people asked questions about it later. And this woman spoke up and said, wasn't it nice of Al Capone to build this church? And I'm like, I don't think he was really in the churches. He was Italian. And so we just laughed about it. And then about, I don't know, 6 or 8 weeks later, another one from a tour bus at Gulf Shores, snowbirds came up and said the same thing. So finally I asked her, I said, where did you hear this? She said, the woman that was giving the tours on the bus there was telling me. Well, we had our attorney call me a letter. I bet Al Capone. That's the weirdest one.
Pretty weird.
You couldn't make some of the things up, could you? Yeah, I mean, just...
Can you tell us about the church then?
Yeah, well, the church, after they got out of, the church was built like, they were very devout. And they just, in the beginning, said if we make a success in this country, it'll be due to God, so they vowed to build a church. So they kept their promise, and once they sold the bakery and kind of retired, they built it and built all the marble and the wood carved pieces were brought over from Greece, and we brought 3 artists over from Greece that did all the iconography and the painting. And when they built the new one in Mobile, that's on Ann Street now, Malbis also pledged to match their pledges on that church. Very devout. And then we have a foundation which we, you give away a certain percentage every year.
Do they have regular services at this church?
Excuse me?
Do they have services at this
Yeah.
church?
And you can't get a full-time priest for a family chapel, so the Mobile priest has always served our church. And that's why we have Saturday service, because he has church in Mobile Sunday. And see, we still fast from midnight before you take communion, and he'd get a little hungry if he... we tease him, we say, you made that rule.
So you have service on Saturday at what time?
9 o'clock.
Can anybody come?
Oh, yeah, it's open anytime. But the best, if you want to, it's best to call him at the Mobile Church. They're listed in the phone book, because sometimes he'll have things that he has to do with the diocese or youth group or, something that's best to check with him.
What is his name?
We had it yesterday, but,
What is his name?
excuse me,
What is the?
Father Elias,
Oh,
and he's half-Greek.
okay.
And young, and he was in the corporate world 20 years before he became a priest.
Well, I knew a man here, I don't know if he was there or here, that would do service by Andrew Cleonis, was that?
Yeah, Father Jimmy Cleonis, yeah. His wife is my husband's cousin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I met
yeah.
her too, I remember.
Yeah.
So to schedule a tour of the church, what should we do?
If do what now?
To schedule a tour, a church tour?
Just call the office,
You have a-
626-3050.
305.
And the secretary calls me and sees if I'm at home.
Do you do the, is there any minimum number of people for whom you do the?
I've gone up there for 1 or 2, and I've had a bus, I feel like, I've done so much, I feel like I pull a string and the recording goes off.
What year was the church built?
It took 5 years to build and paint. It started in '60, and the dedication was January '65. And the artist only had a year's work visa here, but they worked till like 10 o'clock at night, and there were 3 of them. And they are trained, you have to be a graduate, there's a monastery on Mount Athos that trains them, and they're called iconographers. And you have to be a graduate of that school to do a church. Because if you misinterpret a painting, it's like misinterpreting the Bible, and they're real quick on explaining a misinterpretation to the King James Bible. But the meaning is the same, it's just different word. The thing about it is that the rich man can't go to heaven is a camel through the eye of a needle. It was a camel. There have been books written about it called camelist, which is like a hawser that you tie the ships to the dock with.
Oh,
But it's still impossible. See what I mean? It's still impossible.
well, that's interesting.
And that makes more sense trying to thread than a camel. But it just, yeah.
Well, how many actual, do you have a membership?
No, the only reason we don't accept members, anyone can come, but we maintain it. We don't pass collection trays. There's a kind of tray if anyone wants to leave something, it goes into the foundation. But we don't want to take away from another church's membership. And if any of you are involved in a church, you know, I'm mad at this one, I'm going here, I'm going to start another church, and that's human beings, not, you know, anything. And we don't want anyone to use us for that. It's like, stay and solve your own problems, we'll take care of this.
Well, you said you talked about the foundation. Is that like a corporate part of it?
No, the corporation, Malbis Inc., Incorporated, is totally separate from the foundation. And those of us on the board of the foundation, we divvy up what to give to among ourselves, and we kind of each have our pet charities. I keep mine in Mobile and Baldwin County. I figured that's where Malbis primarily earn their living and give back.
Well, how do they get their funds now? How does the Malbis Plantation and the corporation, how do they get money now?
Well, we've got some investments. Like the foundation, we gave away $400,000 last year.
Wow.
It depends upon the investment market, what you have to give away. You give away 5% every year, but in the foundation.
How many are on your board, like to the foundation? How many are the Greeks?
5. Well, there are 5 on the foundation, but we just recently had a meeting about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and we're going to expand the board to 7.
Well, are they the old Greeks that were here, or they're
all dead. They used to be all
there.
there, but they're gone now.
But I mean, are they their ancestors, or it's the new population moving in to the area?
No, not really.
It's the old families still?
No, it's just ones of us left. It's always nice when there was somebody there older than me, but
So it's,
What's the future then of this?
well, we have different children, and we have other, some people have left their shares to others who have sold it to others too.
So it's a
Like Mr. Simmons, you know, some non-Greek. See, I'm not Greek, my husband was.
So the assets are held by a corporation, is that right?
Yeah, Malbis Inc. is totally separate than the foundation.
What type of charities do y'all give to?
I give a lot to the Lighthouse, Penelope House, Salvation Army,
People in need?
yeah, people around here.
Has there been any talk of developing a museum or a room in one of the houses that would be a museum of this plantation? Because, man,
oh gosh,
I'd
That
like to
would
see
be
that.
great.
We've talked about redoing what we call the big house, you know, the original with the porches around it, and make it into like a reception thing, wedding receptions and that, but this one squabbles and that one squabbles, and 3 years we voted to do it and still hadn't done anything. Greeks don't agree always.
Another thing, I know the plantation has been there so long, and there are bound to be all kind of artifacts and things instilled in these homes and all.
Oh yes, you can, there's still all the beds, and even there are pictures on the dressers up there, like,
If you ever want to give anything away, think about the Daphne Museum, if you want to
they're really,
preserve.
yeah, well, there's really not, you know, they didn't have any money to begin with, they were poor, I mean, real, you know. And so it's not real expensive, fancy antiques, there's some
Well, we don't have a museum. We'd like something in there to represent the Malbis group, you know.
So I don't,
We don't have anything.
you know,
Well, we
So
got
one
the
day-
Malbis milk jars.
excuse me?
We got the Malbis milk bottles.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Just keep that in mind.
Yeah, because there are not many left.
The buildings that house the ice plant and the power plant,
Yeah.
is any of the machinery or anything left in there?
Not really, not really. Just some strange looking iron things, I don't know what they are.
Thought maybe it might be something to exhibit too. The first power plant, the first ice plant, you know.
There's I asked my brother-in-law, there was something that one of the walls got wobbly once inside, and they took this big iron thing off the wall, and it was, I think, my husband tried to explain to me something about a refrigeration gauge or whatever, one of those type things. I'm not mechanically inclined. And they put it over in a shed somewhere, so I could check with him and see if it wants to give that. I mean, be from the first ice house and the power plant there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, you can almost have a little village there, make it a Malbis village. Historical.
Well, that one, my husband did where the nursery is, and you start now with subdivision. And the old ones approved it because they said, oh, we'll get a Greek village, but you can't tell Greeks where to live.
No, I meant for historical.
Exactly.
She was talking about a historical village to show how the Greeks came into this area and settled and preservation doing that into a historic village.
That's nostalgia, though. That's like Disney World fake fronts. You know, people can live where they want to live.
The nursery end of it, did they, I know that you have a lot of camellias and cyclas planted out there. Did they develop any camellias?
Yeah, they developed several name brands there through the years.
Are they still around, do you think?
There may be some down that main boulevard in the center.
Well,
but
I
I
mean,
really-
are there any that have been for sale lately? I mean, does Bobby Green have any?
Yeah, but there's not any, the nursery, they don't operate a
Well,
nursery
I know
though.
the nursery's not, but I wondered if any of those camellias are in existence in the trade. You know, if they went in.
Somebody that would know camellias could look and tell if they were
Yeah,
not
wonder-
standard or ones they bred, but
yeah.
I'm not a flower type person.
Wonder if Bobby Green's coming out.
Yeah, he could wander down there and look and see. Because I know one of them was named for Aunt Nancy, Nancy Cobb, so,
And my other question is, could you tell us about the theft that happened in the church? I remember reading about it, and they maybe threw some stuff over the bridge or something.
we had, someone took the crucifix, the painted Christ off the cross, and they found it busted up. They caught the guy, but we didn't prosecute him because he had been in a mental hospital and was out.
And that was all,
And,
it wasn't like
So
gold stuff stolen.
we just had another one made and put back,
Okay, well, that's another story then, because I've heard that there was some gold things taken.
Oh.
And it was thrown over the bridge.
They can hear anything. We had a couple of candlesticks once, and someone broke in, we're gonna take them, but they unscrewed them, and whoever they were, they, knew what gold was and wasn't, they unscrewed the base and they were brass, so. That's what it doesn't take to keep anything gold in a public place anymore. But you never use it again because you figure if something's been taken, you figure it's been desecrated, so you don't put it back in a church.
Is that right?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I mean, you can just bless it. Go on with it.
There's a house south of Lowe's, on the south side of Highway 90. Is that part of this?
No, that's the one that the Tampere, was the old Tampere house.
Okay.
And Willard Simmons owns that now, his office, one of his offices is there.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I'm not familiar with the geography, except
Yeah.
going to the store.
Yeah, he was I was saying, he's the building contractor from Chicago that built the cracker addition to the bakery, and that was his home he built.
That big brick house there?
Yeah, the kind of yellow brick with the right sideways on 90.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like it's built out here.
You know, but you could move in tomorrow, just move some desk out of the bedroom. There's a,
I'd like to.
probably shouldn't tell this, you might not want me to, but, there's a, when he did it, there was this, you know, they used to have the metal cupboards way back, see, this house was built in the 20s, and he started to pitch it, it was rusted and cracked and put something else in, but he wanted to restore it, so he took it to Factory Bay to get it back. The guy offered him, I think he said like either $5,000 or $10,000. Well, he almost threw it in the gully. And he's not stupid. He kind of perked up, you know. Says, oh, the guy got on up, kept going on. He says, okay, tell me this story. It was one that this Tampere guy, who was a commercial builder and built some stuff in Washington, they redid the White House once there, and that came out of that. And when they sandblasted it, he found the thing on it, the little metal thing. And said one like it, they had several little kitchens, sold for $50,000 recently at auction.
There's none of those left though now.
Well, there were several, because the White House probably evidently had several kitchens, but they're very few.
Wow.
So, yeah. But it's a lovely home, and he repointed every brick in it, and said the reason the fire didn't go on through, said there was a 6-inch concrete slab with rebar between the first and second story.
Is that the Tampere home you're talking about?
No, the Tampere home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Being a commercial builder, he knew the front. And that house originally now, it's, when you drive by the front of it, that was the back. That when he built it, he thought the highway was going to go the other way on the other side. So but it didn't, it went down where it is, so that's the back of the house, the front house. Yeah.
What is the oldest building on the Malbis Plantation?
Probably the original home.
The pink house?
Yeah, used to be pink, yeah.
Oh, well.
I know it when Billy, my husband's cousin, needed it redoing, and he was sick of that pink, and he had it painted.
Okay, well.
But we still refer to it on the books, like what expenses go to the pink house and what goes to the other ones. It hadn't been painted for a long time. Yeah.
Okay, excuse me.
It is
I
like
didn't even call it, what do you think anymore? I still see that panic in my head.
So both of the big buildings were residences for people who lived and worked.
Wasn't the pink
Dorm,
house,
like apartments in there.
wasn't the pink house the ladies' dorm,
Well,
if you will?
they all lived together to start with, but as others came, and then they had homes in Mobile, they built the other one, and since none of them married, they didn't want those old men in that house to have to wait on them. Because Greek men kind of want to be waited on, you know. No, but go to comments to the audience.
Not just Greek men.
Yeah. So they built it across the street.
And that was the men's across the street.
Yeah,
right?
the red brick, yeah. We still refer to it as the men's house.
The homes that are in Mobile, were they by the bakery or were they just?
Oh, yeah, one was on Washington Avenue and the other was on Marine Street.
Are they still there?
The one on Marine Street is, the last time I was in that area a few years ago, and they were good-sized houses.
They big,
The one on Washington Avenue had been torn down.
were they two big store?
Two stories, yeah.
Frame homes, they
Uh-huh.
were brick.
Oh, your big house.
Okay.
Because there were a lot of them. you
Oh,
know.
yeah.
Where was the bakery at?
On Broad Street, right by the railroad track. You go on down Broad, you know.
I remember that bakery, because when I first started working at Brooklyn Air Force Base in 1954, we had a carpool of guys from Faro. Every morning when we go by the bakery, we would stop there for coffee and orange
Yes.
juice. So that bakery was always in my mind.
And you could smell it in the air.
Oh, yes.
Is the building still there?
Was the Jack's cookie, was that their personal cookie that they made and called it Jack's?
The what now?
Jack's Cookie. They came in a tin.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
Was that their
them.
brand? And
And they made little snowball. Do you know the first moon pies ever thrown in a Mardi Gras
Was
parade?
made there?
Brian Heathcock, his dad worked at the bakery, kept the machinery up,
Uh-huh.
and he was in a Mardi Gras thing, and he gave him a couple of cases of moon pies to throw. But they made them there then, but today they're all made in
And they
Chattanooga.
used to be big.
Uh-huh,
Oh,
that was
yeah.
first Malbis bakery.
Yeah.
Brian Heathcock.
Yeah, they were bigger.
There are a lot of cool memories.
Gertrude, I'd like for you to tell something about it.
And, I was elected to office in the women's group over there, and I found out you had to be a baptized Orthodox to hold office. And they all thought I had been what you call chrismated. They'd accept other Christian baptisms in our church. And I knew I hadn't. And I knew if they realized it or found out, I could just hear the, buzzing. Someone did it. And the priest put it in the bulletin. A lot of them in Mobile said, well, I thought she was Greek. He said, have you ever heard of a Greek named Gertrude? That's my first name.
What was your maiden name?
Crescent. C-R-E-S-A-P. Yeah.
Not Greek.
No.
Well, that's a fascinating story. So
Everybody has a story, We just didn't grow up together.
I'm glad to hear yours, though.
We were married 51 years and 4 months till he died. We used to laugh and say, someone would say, well, today, everybody gets divorced. Not everybody, but, what have you. I said, what kept us together? My husband said, the children. Said she wouldn't take them and I wouldn't take them. My kids would just roll their eyes. You learn to laugh a lot. You learn to laugh a lot.
So where are your children now?
Well, our son died of colon cancer. And one is at Gulf Shores, one's in Jacksonville, Florida, and the other's in Birmingham.
Oh, wow. Did they still have connections with the Greek community or not?
Not really. They've got their own lives now, But it's funny, the girls all married boys with liturgical backgrounds, though.
Really?
I guess they were just, it wasn't, no, they wouldn't even date a Greek boy. And they were pretty girls, Rochelle can tell you. No, they said they were too,
Independent, maybe?
no, too, yeah.
Oh, independent.
No, the old world,
Yeah.
old world, no, they were pretty independent, because I'm pretty independent.
Well, I believe that Jason Malbis went back to Greece before World War II,
Yeah.
intending to come back, but he couldn't.
No, yeah, he went over there in, I think it was late 38, close to 39, and he got trapped in the war and couldn't get back, but he had colon cancer. He died of natural causes. And after they finished the church, they bury people different in Greece because that country is so small and old. If they did like we do, they'd have run out of room graveyard centuries ago. And there's a little box of bones, and they just stack them in the grave, like in military cemeteries. But they bought that little box of bones back and put in a little thing.
But you don't have that in Malbis, where they move the bones?
Yeah, it is.
You-
Hole in the wall with the plastic.
No, but I mean, is he individualized, or do they just?
No. You just repack the bones after X number of...
But is that what you do at Malbis too?
No. I was in the graveyard. No. We got room here.
Okay.
But
Well,
if you've ever been in that great cemetery, walked through it, my husband laughs. He said 10,000 acres, and they put those graves so close together you can't get a lawnmower. They're not real organized.
In New Orleans, they have the Italian group.
Yeah.
They have the bones, and it's a certain place in them.
And we built little things up over the ground, and a lot of people think they're buried above the ground, but they're 6 feet under.
Okay.
That was just a custom in the village where they came from, that they had the thing up with little boxes in there, but no, they're 6 feet under.
Okay.
I get that question all the time. But y'all are welcome to come up at any time you want to.
Do you take tours through the cemetery as well as the church?
Now you just wander around and look. It's great.
Well, do you keep the church locked then?
Or when no one's there, unfortunately today you have to.
Okay.
You know, off the interstate.
Yes, okay.
And I used to stay up there during the week when I was younger, but at this point in life, I'm not going to
No.
do it. And you get to where, and I've never had training, but you can profile. When someone comes in that church, you know if they're wanting handouts. And you, only one time did I get a little frightened, and it was nothing the guy said, but it was a flash in his eye. It was just something in the eye. And we're not set up for that. We don't keep maybe $1 or 2 candles or something, you know. And when he left, I locked the door. Wasn't 5 minutes, or he was back banging on the door and cursing. But it was in the eyes. It wasn't a word he said. Just
Really, you may.
so I told my husband, if I'm staying up here, you're gonna get a telephone put in this office.
Well, today we have cell phones, so that's a blessing.
You're gonna like. My daughter just gave me one this past Christmas.
Oh my goodness, you were up there
No,
by
she busted
yourself.
at me, been busting at me, and I hadn't used it yet, though. Well, I've got it if I have a flat tire, you know.
I'm always that way too myself.
Yeah, I just,
I'd rather use it.
if I want to talk on the phone, I'll talk. If I don't, I'm not going, if I'd be used to it, I'd be in my car. I'm not going to talk in the car. I don't think that would be safe.
Is there a best time to schedule? I've been meaning to do this for 25 years. So is there a best time or best day to schedule a tour?
Probably during the week. It was the guy that stays up there now, we give him Sunday and Monday off. But I'll go up there Monday if necessary, so he can go to church in Mobile. You know, Mobile and see his Greek friends and all. But I did it every day.
Okay, so we call somebody, probably answer the phone. And
Oh, yeah, the
check with
secretary will
you-
answer the phone.
Check with you for a good time.
Yeah, and then she calls me, and if I'm going to be out of town or dentist or doctor appointment or something, I always call Diane, the secretary, and tell her, and she marks that day. So, you know, we contact with each other.
What are the main things you point out in your tour of the church itself?
What?
What are the main things that people are interested in the
Oh.
church itself?
Why is this here? What is that? What's that done for? You know.
Statues are just paintings.
Well, the paintings are self-explanatory. They're just Bible stories and saints and, you know. But the
Seems like when we went through, you said something about columns, the
Yeah,
red of the column.
the red is the
Explain
faux
that.
marble. Yeah, there's a steel beam inside each column. But the one they copied from in Greece had the real marble. But with building codes today for support, you can't use real marble. You know, it's brittle. So there's a steel beam inside, but we wanted it to look like that. So, you know.
I want to ask you back when the groups lived in the individual houses, was there a person that did the cooking, or did they all have to cook?
Oh, no. Not one we call Nana was the main cook, and a couple of the others helped her. And she was a good cook.
How would they, like the laundry, and one person did all the
Oh,
laundry?
no, there's a lot of people, no. You had, the laundry's behind in that big garage behind you've probably seen it back there, all the stalls in the garage behind the house.
Like I used to could see, I
Yeah,
don't think
but
you can see
it was
now.
like a commercial laundry, and they did the motel laundry there, plus all the houses. No, they had help. They had
Everybody had a job then to do.
Oh, yeah, they hired a lot of people. Malbis was a big employer in the county.
Yeah,
for
well,
years.
but I mean, the women didn't have to do that themselves?
No, they never, yeah.
Oh, really? Well, some, the older ones really had to do a lot of the,
Well, they were all hard workers.
yeah,
They were all
well,
hard
if you
workers.
read the books and things,
Yeah, well, you had some of them that worked in the office and others that, you know, everybody had their own job.
Well, just
Some of them worked in
clearly-
Mobile when they had the businesses there, some there, you know.
but when he first came and, you know, they were trying to clear the land and things like that, it was.
Oh, yeah, they got out there with horses and plows and axes and cleared it.
In the 30s and 40s, didn't he bring a lot of orphans?
That was in the 50s, the late,
Well,
Early-
even
early.
earlier than that, because Auntie and Mopsy,
no, yeah.
I knew them, and
Uh-huh.
they were, Auntie was a German, if I recall.
Yeah, she was a Gregor, Oakland's Gregor descent, yeah.
Right. But where would that relationship come from?
Well, she was adopted from an orphanage,
Okay.
but Nancy Kyle, Aunt Nancy, my younger daughter's name for her.
Oh, is that right?
Uh-huh, which she, whatever. But, she was from a Greek family in Chicago, and her mother died of tuberculosis. And the father, back then, Greek men just didn't take care of kids. You know, that was women's job. And so they, through, I guess, people in Chicago that did business with the bank and all heard about Malbis, and she was a kid when they brought her down here. Yeah. So she was from, Greek family. And then she had a nephew, Tyke, I don't know if you've ever met him from Chicago, had come down here, had flew an airplane. He wound up dying in the airplane crash.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. Now my Helen is named Helen Antigone, and my younger daughter is Mexican.
They were good friends with my mother.
Yeah. But they're all gone now. But you know, they left to be, all of them left to be. You can look at the ages in the graveyard. The only one that died the earliest, I guess, would be that Fulton, the one that in the graveyard that looks, my kids call it the little church in Mausoleum. And she had gone to Chicago to visit relatives during the, no, I think it was around 1918 or 19, that bad flu epidemic that went through the United States, and she caught it and died. So she was probably the first one buried there. It's just, it's normal to us, but it looks different to other people, I guess.
Well, I know, I grew up in Denton all my life, and it seemed like in those days, back in the 40s and 50s, the whole Malbis area was, they were kind of like a clique or something. We didn't know anything about them.
Well, they were kind of closed-mouthed, reclusive, they stayed together.
Inclusive, yeah.
Yeah. The language barrier was one thing that kept them, you know.
Well, it was a
Went to
small
school with
town
Tommy
community.
Malbis.
That's my brother-in-law, yeah.
And he did ride the school bus.
Yeah, Tommy's there, he stays up there now during the week, but goes back to he's a condo at the beach weekends. You know. And Tommy went through a few wives. I said, I got the good one.
How many siblings did your husband have?
Oh, just he and Tommy.
Oh, wow.
Just he and Tommy.
And your husband was a little older than Tommy?
George was 5 years older than Tommy. He's the little boy in the centerfold of the book. I said he's a centerfold picture in the little white shirt. Yeah. My husband, that was before Tommy was born.
It is the old Malbis bakery, I remember that too well.
Well, when Jason Malbis came and he started all these businesses, was he of an engineering mind, like with the ice house and the electricity and the bakery, that, you know, and farming? So was he that
He knew how to bring others in.
the others that knew
And,
what
you
to
know,
do?
and in those days, you either did it if you wanted it or you did without it,
Okay.
you know? And it was,
so-
they wanted it, therefore they contacted people and,
Was he from a city in Greece, like a big
oh,
city?
no, it's a village called Dumina, a village.
And so it's small.
And how many acres does the plantation have now?
I think it's either 3,400 or 3,600, I've forgotten the exact.
And what originally, how much do you
Oh,
know?
started off with about, 100 acres, $5 an acre, bought $500.
I mean, when it was at its biggest.
Peak, 10,000.
All there, right in that community, Malbis?
No. No,
You just
we're not
kind
there.
of,
Somewhere
well, you
up
can
there.
look at a map. But they knew the value of land. You don't make any more of it.
Yeah.
So they're very,
Kind of like the Pearl Book movie, The Good Earth.
yeah.
where the Eastern Shore Mall was that Malbis land?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
My husband did that before he died. They've got a little plaque up there with his name on it.
Okay, oh, that's good.
Like, you know where the fountain is and the wall comes out and the square columns, it's on that facing that left column. You know.
Okay, we'll have to look for it.
One more question then. They still have lots of assets, the Malbis Corporation, whatever. Do you have any idea how, when everybody's gone, how people inherit or?
Well, it depends upon who you make your will out to. Like
Just
anybody.
like anybody.
You leave your shares of stock to who you want to.
Okay.
Some are selling them now as they're getting older and some are not.
Okay, they won't let outsiders buy in, will they?
Willard Summit's not Greek.
So
Mike Sermon has some, he was our accountant. He has some.
is it on the stock market or is it?
No, it's private, it's not traded publicly. See, there weren't that many issued, there were only 250 shares originally issued. And there are only, I think, 119 active, the others are treasury stock. The old ones died and left it to the company, so there's not that many shares, so they're pretty steep price.
So they bought, so they sold into the Malbis Corporation, but the foundation is a separation?
Yeah, there's two separate things.
But this foundation,
The foundation has some Malbis stock in it, there's some of the old ones that died and left it some
okay.
stock.
All right,
Yeah.
that's how we got
Yeah.
it.
Mhm. So when you give dividends, the foundation gets dividends.
Yeah. Well, that's beautiful. Hope it stays.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
any other questions, anybody?
Gosh, we gonna wear her out.
Yeah.